Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is Epic Battles Revolution. I will talk a bit about the box, what I've done with it, what my plans are. Didn't want to do an opening video where I just talk about the cool sprues and stuff that's in the box. You know, there's better pictures than I can do, commentary. I figure as I build and paint, I'll talk about my experiences with it. So I've started doing some British. I will be doing a British force from cow pens. So I will come back and talk about the miniatures in a minute. I want to talk a bit about the rule book. So Revolution rule book. You've basically got vanilla black powder rules plus most of the bits that you'd need from the Big Book, the American War of Independence supplement. So it's broken down into scenarios, and the scenarios have been designed with epic battles in mind. And the forces are relatively manageable. So I'm going to be doing cow pens as the first force I do. And as we see here for the British, I'm looking at British Line Infantry, Highlanders, British Legion Infantry, Light Infantry, Chesney's Loyalists, Legion Light Dragoons, more Light Cavalry, another unit of Light Dragoons, and some artillery. So it gives me a chance to paint up a bit of everything. And for the Continentals, again, slightly more, but very similar. No cavalry, lots of militia, riflemen, and some Continental units. It's also quite a manageable battle to get on the table, and it's one I've actually spoken about in another one of my videos. Now, terrain, this is my big bugbear, and I've been talking about this often. The scenarios often have extra rules in for all the terrain. What I would have liked to have seen is the American Civil War rules for terrain, woods especially, being implemented. What this book has that the Big Book doesn't have is army lists. So I'm zoomed in so we can look at the pictures later. Can't zoom in and out while I've got recording. Basic army lists, a couple of wee rules for not min-max, well, I suppose it is min-maxing, but not going over the top with certain types of units, and basic points values. Gives you enough to get a force on the table. The box themselves comes with blue plastic and red plastic, so if you don't want to paint, blue plastic are your Continentals, red plastic are your Brits. Good mix of sprues in there. There's sort of infantry sprues, which can be used for both sides. You've got sort of Hessian Grenadier sprues for the British, and you've got sort of extra militia sprues with cavalry on for the Continental. So let's talk about what I've been doing. Well, first off, you will notice I've actually gone for bigger bases again. Something that started rolling out during pike and shot. So all my pike are on bigger bases, all my shot are on the regular epic bases. By the time I come to doing Hail Caesar epics, I'm pretty much using 60 by 30 mil bases. Like the size on it. The other thing I've started doing is I've made a mix of sand and grass, and just PVA glue, get the base done, dip it through this, and what that means is basing becomes less of a chore. I'd overcomplicated basing by gluing sand down, painting the sand 2 or 3 layers, and gluing some grass on. This means that as soon as the models are done, I'm ready to go. Now, the other thing I'm going to be doing is standard units. Are going to be 3 bases. Something we use a lot in the club is 3 base units as regular standard units. Easy to remember that each base gets 1 dice or 2 in hand-to-hand combat. In this instance, unlike Napoleonics, your colour party is in the middle, which means you actually get a nice looking unit with your colour party in the middle. Obviously, a small unit will be 2, tiny unit will be 1. Now, a lot of the times in the American War of Independence, you might see detached companies, and they would form smaller or tiny units, and they wouldn't have colours. So in terms of what to do with those extra strips, they can be detached companies, not a problem. If you're going to go large, maybe go 4 or 5 bases for a large unit. Next up is my light infantry. So I've added more than the standard 5. I've added 7 to a base. So light infantry generally work in pairs. So there's 3 pairs there, and each one should be firing, one should be loading, as you can see, and I've put an officer on each base. So that's going to be my standard for light infantry. As I say, I'm working through painting right now. Next up is going to be a video where I talk about how to paint it, the steps I made. Obviously, now we've been painting epic battles for several years, I've had the opportunity to kind of refine my skill, and I often use the phrase, perfect is the enemy of good. You know, the first epics I painted probably put too much work in to get armies onto the field, whereas now I think I've got some really good practical tips down. So close up, I think they're looking pretty good. I'm going to be busier than I'd like over the next week, so I don't know how much more I get done. I'd quite like to get the continental unit done. Some of the auxiliaries, I've got most of the cavalry done. But yeah, nice and simple is what I'm going for. In terms of uniform guides as well, this is my uniform guide of choice. You'd have thought military uniforms would be fairly easy to work out what's what. You know what? It's not. Records often incomplete. Different units changed uniforms at different times. Kit gets replaced. So ultimately, paint something that feels about right for what you want to do. Certainly, I'm going to be making some decisions about my loyalist legions and militia. But anyway, this is my first video giving you a wee overview of where I am with the project at the moment. I've got a big Napoleonic event on at the end of July, so I've got to paint First World Problems, a couple of units of heavy cavalry for that, and I hope to get everything done for Cowpens by the end of August and get some games on the table. But anyway, that's enough of my chatting at the moment. I look forward to chatting to you in the next video, which is going to be about painting, and I'm going to do one of my detailed breakdowns of how to paint. So I look forward to chatting to you then, and I'll catch you in another video.